Before we begin tonight's story, make sure you're somewhere comfortable and maybe keep a light on. The story you're about to hear is inspired by reports, experiences, and unexplained events that continue to haunt the people involved. Whether you believe in the paranormal or not, some stories leave behind questions that simply cannot be answered. So put on your headphones, turn down the lights, and prepare yourself for a disturbing encounter that you will not soon forget. Let's begin. This happened in the fall of 2021. My name is Daniel. At the time I was 23 years old and had just finished trade school. My older sister Emily lived in a small mountain town outside Asheville, North Carolina. She worked as a teacher and had recently moved there with her husband Ryan. The town was beautiful. Dense forests surrounded every road. Fog rolled through the hills every evening, and a wide river called Hollow Creek cut through the entire valley. Emily was 8 months pregnant with her second child. Since I had not seen her in almost a year, I decided to spend a few weeks with her family. Everything seemed normal during my first few days there. People were friendly, the town was quiet, and life moved slower than it did back home. But there was one thing I noticed almost immediately. Nobody liked talking about Hollow Creek Bridge. The bridge connected the town to a larger shopping area nearly 20 miles away. Everyone used it during the day, but after sunset, most locals avoided it completely. Whenever I asked why, people simply changed the subject. One old gas station employee looked at me for several seconds before saying, "If you have any reason to cross that bridge after dark, make sure you are not carrying anything that bleeds." I thought he was joking. At the time I had no idea what he meant. A few days later, on a Saturday, Emily handed Ryan a shopping list. The pantry was nearly empty, and they needed supplies before the coming week. Ryan looked at me and smiled. "You coming with me?" One agreed immediately. The drive to town was peaceful. By the time we finished shopping, the sun was already beginning to disappear behind the mountains. Ryan suggested grabbing dinner before heading home, so we stopped at a roadside barbecue stand outside town. While we were eating, an elderly man sitting nearby suddenly stared at the package of smoked ribs on our table. He seemed uncomfortable, almost nervous. After a few moments he finally asked, "You boys heading across Hollow Creek tonight?" Ryan nodded. The old man slowly shook his head. "Bad idea." Ryan laughed. The old man did not. Instead, he reached into his jacket and placed a small wooden token on the table. The token looked old and worn. Its surface was carved with strange symbols. "Keep this in your truck." Ryan tried giving it back. The old man refused. Then he leaned closer. "If you see a woman on that bridge, do not stop. Do not roll down your windows. And whatever you hear, do not answer her." Neither of us knew how to respond. The old man stood up, walked to an old pickup truck, and disappeared into the evening fog. For a few seconds, neither Ryan nor I spoke. Finally, Ryan picked up the token and laughed. Mountain people have some weird stories. I laughed too. Then we loaded our groceries into the truck and started heading home. The roads became darker with every mile. Fog drifted through the trees. The headlights barely illuminated the road ahead. Around 8:30, we reached Hollow Creek Bridge. The bridge stretched nearly half a mile across the river. Old steel beams rose overhead, creating dark shadows everywhere. As soon as we drove onto the bridge, the temperature inside the truck dropped dramatically. I looked at the dashboard. The outside temperature had fallen nearly 20 degrees in less than a minute. Ryan noticed it too. "That's strange." Then the radio suddenly filled with static. A loud crackling noise echoed through the speakers. Ryan reached forward to turn it off, but before he could, a woman's voice came through the static. "Help me." The voice sounded distant, weak, almost like someone calling from underwater. Ryan immediately shut off the radio. Neither of us said a word. A few seconds later, I noticed something standing near the far end of the bridge. At first I thought it was a road sign, then it moved. My stomach tightened. A woman stood beside the guardrail. Her long dark hair covered most of her face. She wore what looked like an old white dress. The fabric appeared soaked, as if she had just climbed out of the river. Below, Ryan slowed the truck. "What the hell?" The woman slowly raised one arm, then pointed toward us. Every instinct in my body told me something was wrong, very wrong. Ryan pressed the accelerator. The truck moved faster. As we approached her, the headlights illuminated her face, and what I saw still haunts me today. Her eyes were completely black, not dark, not shadowed, black, like empty holes. The second the truck passed her, every light inside the vehicle went out. The dashboard disappeared. The radio died. The headlights flickered. For 3 terrifying seconds, we were driving through complete darkness. Then everything suddenly returned. Ryan was breathing heavily. "Did you see her?" I nodded. Neither of us spoke for the rest of the drive. When we arrived home, Emily immediately noticed something was wrong. Both of us looked pale. Ryan made up an excuse about feeling tired. We never mentioned the woman, not that night. Around midnight, I woke up to the sound of footsteps outside my bedroom window. At first I assumed it was Ryan checking something outside. Then I heard the footsteps again. Slow, deliberate, crunch, 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 like someone walking through dead leaves. I looked at the clock. 12:37 a.m. The footsteps continued. Back and forth, directly beneath my window. Finally, curiosity got the better of me. I moved the curtain slightly, and instantly wished I hadn't. A woman was standing in the yard, perfectly still, looking directly at my window. Even from that distance I recognized the white dress. My blood turned to ice. The woman from the bridge had somehow followed us home, and she was smiling. For several seconds I could not move. The woman stood perfectly still beneath my window, her head tilted slightly to one side. That unnatural smile remained frozen on her face. I quickly stepped away from the curtain. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. I kept telling myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe someone from town was playing a prank. Maybe I was imagining things. But deep down I knew that wasn't true, because I had seen her on the bridge, and now she was standing outside our house. After several minutes, I finally looked through the curtain again. She was gone. The yard was empty. The rest of the night, I barely slept. The next morning, I found Ryan sitting alone on the back porch. The expression on his face told me everything. He had seen her too. Before I could say anything, he quietly spoke. "You saw her last night, didn't you?" I nodded. For a moment, neither of us said a word. Then Ryan admitted something. Around 3 in the morning, he had heard someone knocking on the front door. 3 slow knocks, then silence. A few minutes later, it happened again. When he looked through the peephole, he saw nobody. But when he opened the door, the wooden token the old man had given him was lying on the porch, broken into 2 pieces. Neither of us knew what that meant, and honestly, neither of us wanted to know. Over the next few days, strange things started happening around the house. At first, they were small things. Cabinet doors opening by themselves, lights flickering, objects disappearing and reappearing in different places. But then things became worse. One afternoon, Emily was folding baby clothes in the nursery. Suddenly, she called for us. Ryan and I rushed upstairs. Emily looked terrified. She pointed toward the crib. All the stuffed animals were sitting upright facing the doorway. Every single one. She swore they had not been arranged that way. Ryan tried laughing it off, but nobody was laughing anymore. That night, Emily told us something she had been hiding. For nearly a week, she had been having the same nightmare. Every single night. In the dream, she stood alone on Hollow Creek Bridge. A woman wearing a soaked white dress stood at the opposite end. The woman never spoke. She simply stared, then pointed toward Emily's stomach. Every time the dream ended the same way. The woman would begin walking closer, and Emily would wake up screaming. At that point, Ryan finally told her everything. The woman on the bridge, the strange voice on the radio, the figure outside the house, everything. Emily became completely silent. For several minutes, she didn't say a word. Then she looked at Ryan and asked, "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Neither of us had an answer. The following evening, we decided to visit town and ask questions. Someone had to know what was happening. After speaking with several locals, we finally found a woman who agreed to talk. She owned a small bookstore near the edge of town. When Ryan mentioned Hollow Creek Bridge, her face immediately changed. She locked the front door before speaking. Then she told us a story. Nearly 40 years earlier, a young woman named Sarah Whitmore had disappeared near the bridge. She had been 8 months pregnant. According to police records, she was driving home during a heavy storm. Her vehicle was later discovered abandoned on the bridge. The driver door stood open, but Sarah was gone. Neither she nor her unborn child were ever found. For decades, people reported seeing a woman in white near the bridge. Most sightings happened after sunset. Many witnesses described hearing cries for help. Others reported seeing her standing in the middle of the road, waiting, watching. The bookstore owner lowered her voice. Then she said something that made my skin crawl. Almost every person who claimed to see her had one thing in common. Someone close to them was expecting a child. The room suddenly felt colder. Ryan looked at Emily. Emily looked down at her stomach. Nobody said a word. That night we returned home before sunset. Nobody wanted to be near that bridge after dark. For a few hours everything seemed normal. Then around 11 o'clock the power went out. The entire house went black. Ryan grabbed a flashlight. I used my phone. Outside the wind had become incredibly strong. Tree branches scraped against the walls. The atmosphere felt wrong, as if something was waiting just beyond the darkness. Then we heard it. A knock. 3 slow knocks on the front door. Knock, knock, knock. Everyone froze. The knock came again. This time louder. Emily whispered, "Please don't open it." Nobody moved. Then the knocking stopped. For a few seconds everything became silent. And then we heard footsteps. Walking across the roof. Heavy footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps. Directly above our heads. The sound moved from one end of the house to the other. Back and forth. Back and forth. As if someone was searching for a way inside. Emily started crying. Ryan tried comforting her, but I could see fear in his eyes. Suddenly a loud crash came from upstairs. The nursery. Ryan and I immediately ran toward the stairs. When we entered the room, my stomach dropped. The nursery window was wide open. Cold air poured inside. The curtains moved violently, and every baby toy had been thrown across the room. But that wasn't the worst part. Written on the wall above the crib were 4 words. Not with paint, not with marker, but with something dark and wet. "She's mine." Ryan immediately grabbed Emily. We left the room and locked the door. Nobody slept that night. The next morning Ryan called an old local pastor, a man who had lived in the area his entire life. After hearing our story, he agreed to visit. The pastor arrived around noon. The moment he stepped inside the house, his expression changed. He slowly walked through every room. Finally, he stopped outside the nursery. Then he quietly said something none of us wanted to hear. "It's attached itself to your family, and it's getting stronger." Emily looked terrified. "What does it want?" The pastor stared toward the nursery door, then answered, "I think it's trying to replace what it lost." And at that exact moment, a loud bang echoed from upstairs, as if something had slammed against the nursery wall. Hard. The pastor looked up toward the ceiling, and for the first time since meeting him, I saw genuine fear in his eyes. Nobody moved. The sound from upstairs was so loud it felt like the entire house had shaken. The pastor slowly looked toward Ryan, then toward Emily. Finally he spoke. "You need to leave this house tonight. Not tomorrow, not next week. Tonight." Ryan asked where we were supposed to go. The pastor suggested staying with relatives in another county until the baby was born. He believed distance might break whatever connection had formed. None of us argued. By that point, we were willing to try anything. The plan was simple. Pack essentials, leave before sunset, and never return until everything was over. For most of the afternoon things remained quiet, almost too quiet. No strange noises, no footsteps, no shadows, nothing. It felt as if the house itself was holding its breath. Around 5 in the evening, Emily suddenly complained of stomach pain. At first she thought it was normal pregnancy discomfort, but within an hour the pain became much worse. She could barely stand. Ryan immediately called the local hospital. The nurse advised us to bring her in right away. We didn't have much choice. The hospital was on the opposite side of Hollow Creek Bridge, the very place none of us wanted to go. As darkness settled over the mountains, we loaded Emily into Ryan's truck. The sky was covered by heavy clouds. No stars, no moon, just darkness. The drive began quietly. Nobody wanted to mention the bridge. Nobody wanted to mention the woman. But every single one of us was thinking about her. 15 minutes later, the steel structure of Hollow Creek Bridge appeared ahead. The moment the truck touched the bridge, The radio turned on by itself. Static exploded through the speakers. Ryan switched it off. 2 seconds later, it turned back on. Then a voice came through. Soft, weak, broken. "Where is my baby?" Emily immediately burst into tears. Ryan slammed the radio off again. This time it stayed silent. The truck continued forward. Halfway across the bridge, Emily suddenly sat upright, her eyes fixed on something outside. "Stop the truck." Ryan ignored her. "Stop the truck." Her voice sounded strange, almost distant, like someone speaking through her. Ryan pressed harder on the accelerator. Then I saw it. A woman standing directly in the middle of the bridge. The same soaked white dress, the same black eyes, the same horrible smile. She wasn't moving. She was waiting. Ryan didn't slow down. The truck raced toward her. 50 feet away, 40 feet, 30, 20. Then she vanished. Gone. Like she had never been there. Ryan drove the rest of the bridge at full speed. Nobody spoke. 20 minutes later, we reached the hospital. Doctors rushed Emily inside. Ryan and I remained in the waiting room. Hours passed. The clock eventually reached 2:30 in the morning. Finally, a doctor emerged. He said the baby appeared healthy. Emily had experienced severe stress, but everything looked stable. Relief washed over us. For the first time in days, it felt like things might be okay. We were wrong. At around 3 in the morning, we left the hospital. A light fog covered the parking lot. The truck sat alone beneath a street lamp. As we approached it, Ryan suddenly froze. I followed his gaze and felt every ounce of blood leave my body. The woman stood beside the truck. Her hand rested gently against the passenger door. She was staring directly at us. Ryan immediately grabbed Emily and looked away. "Don't look at her. Just keep walking." We reached the truck, opened the doors, climbed inside. The second Ryan started the engine, the woman disappeared. Again, just vanished. The drive home felt endless. Neither Ryan nor I took our eyes off the mirrors. Every shadow looked wrong. Every tree seemed alive. About 10 miles from the bridge, Anneli suddenly whispered, "She's sitting behind me." My stomach dropped. Ryan tightened his grip on the steering wheel. Nobody looked. Nobody wanted to know. Emily began crying. "She's touching my shoulder." Ryan accelerated. The truck roared through the darkness. The bridge appeared ahead once more. Fog covered everything. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The steel structure emerged like a giant skeleton from the mist. As soon as we entered the bridge, every light inside the truck died. The dashboard vanished. The headlights went out. The engine stalled. The truck rolled to a stop. Complete silence followed. No wind, no river, nothing. Then came a sound. A woman crying. Not outside. Inside the truck. Right behind us. Ryan slowly turned his head. I did the same. And what we saw nearly destroyed us. The woman was sitting beside Emily. One pale hand resting on her stomach. Her black eyes filled with tears. For a brief moment she looked sad. Not angry. Not evil. Just broken. Then she spoke. The first clear words we had ever heard. "They took mine. Give me yours." Emily screamed. The truck suddenly shook violently. Every window cracked. The crying turned into a horrible scream. Ryan desperately turned the ignition. Nothing. Again. Nothing. Then I remembered something. The old man. The wooden token. Ryan still had one half of it in the glove compartment. I grabbed it immediately. Without thinking, I threw it toward the woman. The second it touched her, everything exploded. A blast of freezing air filled the truck. The woman let out a scream unlike anything human. Then she vanished. The engine started instantly. Ryan slammed the accelerator. The truck shot across the bridge. Something chased us. We could hear it, running beside the vehicle, scratching metal, hitting windows, screaming. The sounds continued until we reached the far side. Then silence. Absolute silence. We arrived home shaking. Nobody slept. Just before sunrise, Emily suddenly went into labor. Paramedics arrived within minutes. She was rushed back to the hospital. Hours later, Ryan and I sat together waiting for news. Neither of us spoke. Finally, a doctor entered the room. His expression revealed everything. Something had gone terribly wrong. The baby had not survived. Ryan completely broke down. Emily spent weeks recovering. The months that followed were difficult for everyone. But the strangest part came later. About 6 months afterward, Ryan received a call from a retired sheriff. The man had been investigating Sarah Whitmore's disappearance decades earlier. The sheriff revealed something that had never been released publicly. Sarah had not died in an accident. Evidence suggested she had been kidnapped near the bridge. Witnesses reported seeing several men force her into a vehicle. Neither Sarah nor her unborn child were ever found. The case remained unsolved. According to the sheriff, there had been dozens of strange incidents around Hollow Creek Bridge ever since. Most involved pregnant women. Most ended in tragedy. A year later, Ryan sold the house. Emily transferred to another state, and nobody in the family ever returned to Hollow Creek. As for me, I still think about that night. Sometimes when I drive across a bridge after dark, I find myself checking the side mirror, and every now and then, for just a split second, I think I see a woman standing near the guardrail, watching, waiting, searching for something she lost long ago. And that is a possibility I never want to prove true. And that was tonight's story. If you or someone you know has experienced something strange, terrifying, or completely unexplained, feel free to send your story to my email. You will find the email address in the description below. I personally read every submission, and your story could be featured in an upcoming video. If you enjoyed this narration, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more horror stories. Until next time, stay safe and stay out of the dark.